Hello, my name is Keith, and these are my stamps. This is episode 3, all about Afghanistan. So, here we have Afghanistan in South Central Asia. It's slightly larger than France, a little smaller than Texas. The name Afghanistan, the stan suffix, is quite a common suffix from Sanskrit and Persian, meaning place of. So Afghanistan means place of the Afghans. Not very helpful. Afghan seems also to be derived from a Sanskrit word for horse breeders or horsemen. So it's the place of the horsemen. Here you can see the border with Pakistan, Iran, Turkmenistan. There's a short border with Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and an even shorter border with China. Afghanistan itself, a very mountainous country. The Hindu Kush range is mostly across Afghanistan. There are several passes, including the rather famous Khyber Pass, which is referenced in many of old British Empire countries, including the 1968 film Carry On Up the Khyber, which makes use of Cockney rhyming slang, Khyber Pass meaning arse. The history. Well, I must say, if you actually know a historian or somebody who knows a lot about history, they deserve your respect because looking again into the history of a country, very complicated. However, my understanding is the following, and spoiler alert, Britain will be involved again. The early history, there was lots of tribal migration, struggles for control of the area. There were invasions. Darius I of Persia in around about 500 BC, claiming the Kabul Valley. Alexander the Great was there, 330 BC. Different empires, different religions. Genghis Khan swept in the early 1200s. In 1370, Timur, or Tamerlane, as he's sometimes known, led another invasion, which led to a brief period of calm and renaissance. In the 16th to the 18th centuries, there were various empires from the Uzbeks, Iranians, and the Indians, all ruling parts of what is now present day Afghanistan, until the Pashtuns took over. Pashtuns are an Islamic tribal group. In fact, currently they're the world's largest tribal society, and they formed the basis for the modern state of Afghanistan in the 1800s. Although there isn't really consensus as to when exactly that happened or under which of their particular leaders it happened. However, whilst this nascent country was being born, it was also a pawn in the Great Game, which is a rather euphemistic name given to the rivalry between the British Empire and the Russian Empire for control of that particular region of the world. There were various wars and disagreements, of course, between the British and the Russians, but there was also cooperation, including, in the 1880s, the Afghan Boundary Commission, which was a British-Russian effort to determine the northern border of Afghanistan. But Britain was not satisfied with that and wanted full control of Afghanistan as a kind of buffer state between the Russian Empire and British India. There were 3 Anglo-Afghan wars, the third of which, in 1919, known in Afghanistan as the War of Liberation, was the final one. It was just after World War One. The British didn't really put up that much of a fight, and Afghanistan gained its independence. In 1926, the emir decided he didn't want to be an emir anymore. He wanted to be the king. And so he declared that Afghanistan was a monarchy and declared himself King Amanullah Khan. And the monarchy lasted until 1973, when the king at the time, Zahir Shah, was overthrown and a republic declared. This was followed by what Wikipedia calls, and I quote, a period of coups, invasions, insurgencies, and civil wars, many of which I'm sure you're familiar with. Some of the highlights: 1978, there was a communist revolution. In 1979, there was an invasion by the Soviet Union. 1989, the Soviets withdrew after being defeated by the Mujahideen. The Mujahideen was a set of Islamist militant groups who, in 1992, declared the Islamic State of Afghanistan. 1996, there was a second civil war between different Mujahideen factions, which led to the Taliban coming out on top and declaring that it was now the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They controlled most of the country but had little international recognition. 2001, the US invasion of Afghanistan, until 2021, when the Taliban returned to power and the US troops were withdrawn. The stamp issuing dates are not clear cut either. There is some debate about the date of the first issue of Afghanistan stamps. It seems to be about 1871. Afghanistan didn't join the UPU until 1928, so up until then, Afghan stamps were only valid for internal mail and needed stamps of British India to be carried abroad. After joining the UPU, things went well until the early 60s, when there was a big explosion in the issuing of different series, such that Stanley Gibbons has put many of those issues of the early 60s on their naughty list and doesn't include them in their catalogue proper. In theory, Afghanistan is still issuing stamps, but there have only been a handful since the early 2000s. The last ones appear to be dated to 2023, but released in 2024, and that was just 3 stamps. The currency, well, again, not clear cut. First of all, the currency that Afghanistan had before is one of the most confusing I've come across. From 1871, there was 1 Afghan rupee, which was worth 2 crans. It was also worth 3 Abbasi, 6 Sanar, 12 Shahi, and 60 paisas. Quite why they needed all those different denominations, I do not know. Then the currency changed, although the question of then is, again, not definitive. According to Wikipedia, it was 1923. According to the Corporate Finance Institute, it was 1925. According to Stanley Gibbons, it was 1926. Well, whenever it was, they changed from that rather tortuous arrangement to 1 Afghani being 100 pools. Although, just to try and keep things a little more convoluted, the new Afghani is also known as a rupee sometimes, but it's not the old rupee. Unlike the previous episodes, I have too many stamps from Afghanistan to go through each one, so here are a selection. The first one is the earliest stamp that I have. This is from the 1909 to 1919 coat of arms issue. 1 Abbasi, or Abbasi, This was probably issued in 1916, so for the Third Anglo-Afghan War. This one shows the new currency. This one is 15 pools, and it comes from the 1927 coat of arms issue. This particular stamp is available either perforated or imperf. This one, as you can see, is imperf. From a set 1931 to 1938 of newspaper stamps, these are from 1934, and they are 2 pools. It took me far too long to realize that the design is actually the Arabic 2 and a European 2 intertwined. I just thought it was, well, I don't know what I thought it was, but I didn't think it was that for quite a long time. These are 2 imprints, both from 1960. The top left shows the 50 pool stamp, showing buzkashi, which is the national sport of Afghanistan. It's a little bit like polo, except that instead of a ball, a goat's carcass is used. The bottom right is a 125 pool imprint showing a Douglas DC-6 flying over the Hindu Kush. Both of these were available as regular stamps, as well as imprints. In the years 1957, 58, 59, and 60, Afghanistan issued around 140 stamps. In 1961, 132 stamps were issued, so pretty much the same as the previous 4 years. And this was the start of the sets that Stanley Gibbons deemed not valid for postal usage. And this set that I have here are one of the first of those on the naughty list. These ones, printed in Vienna, commemorate Agricultural Day in 1961. This stamp shows another historical discrepancy, shall we say. The stamp was issued in 1977 to commemorate the first presidency of the country, the first president being Mohammed Daoud Khan. Although he actually came to power and the presidency began with the downfall of the monarchy in 1973. Daoud Khan himself was assassinated in 1978, the year after this stamp was issued. During the Afghan-Soviet War, most cities were under Soviet control and the fighting was predominantly in the rural areas. You may notice some Soviet influence in this particular stamp from 1986. It commemorates the 27th Soviet Communist Party Congress in Moscow, with Lenin writing a letter or a pamphlet. The most recent stamps I have from Afghanistan are these 3 from 2003, a series about cats. Except they're not, well, they are cats, but according to the Afghanistan UPU Circular 177, if you wish to look it up, published in 2007, these were illegally produced and distributed. So that's a selection. These are my stamps.